Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Gangubai Kathiawadi is the movie I am talking about in this episode. I was looking for and have been looking for different Indian films to review and watch and talk about on this show, and this one was highly recommended. This is a biography, crime drama, very interesting film, very great movie. I really enjoyed it. It is, in so many ways, one of the most beautiful films I have seen. The cinematography is amazing, absolutely gorgeous shots. It also has one of the best performances by the lead in this film, her name is Alia Bhatt, who plays Gangubai Kathiawadi. Amazing performance. The story is brutal. But it's brutal, but it's one of those movies where your character starts at a deficit, right? It's not even starting from zero. It's starting from like negative 100. And you're seeing the rise of this person to not only regain strength in their own being themselves, but also to do good for others and to try and make positive change despite where they came from. And it's amazing. It is an amazing film. I absolutely enjoyed watching it. Again, it was visually striking, but the story itself is great as well. Despite the fact that it is a biopic and in some ways suffers from what most biopics suffer from, where it seems almost effortless, like because they are covering so many things in this person's life, it fails at I don't know, almost some things feel too easy. It's not necessarily as bad as like music biopics are. Those tend to be quite a bit worse. But this one I enjoyed top to bottom. I thought it was amazing. Performance was amazing. Probably one of my favorite movies of the year. Probably. Wouldn't be surprised. This came out in 2022. Runtime, as most Indian films are, 2.5 hours to 2:32, 2 hours 32 minutes. Based on a book, this movie, Mafia Queens of Mumbai. But all of the things that I saw and read, and the fact that it was available on Netflix, made this one a prime choice for me to watch and talk about. I will be spoiling this movie in an effort to talk about aspects of the movie that I really appreciated, and to really flesh out the story of this person who came from less than nothing and was able to succeed far past even maybe her own goals and dreams. So let's get into it. This movie starts off, I mean, kind of, you're basically seeing this woman, Gangubai, in 3 separate stages of her life. The first stage of her life as Ganga was told as like a flashback, where she comes in to this brothel to talk to this girl who had been sold to the brothel and is refusing to fall in line, right? Just not eating, not drinking, like obviously doing all of the things not to comply and not to become a prostitute. And Gangubai comes in and she's telling this story of how she started, right? Because she is a prostitute. She came from very similar situations as this girl. And in this story, she's talking about what happened to her back when she was Ganga. And what happened was her fiance or her boyfriend or whatever sold her to a brothel, which is just insane. Like, the way this movie starts, it's like he convinces her, we're going to go, you're going to be an actress, you're going to be in movies, you're going to be famous, so let's go on this train ride to this place. And my aunt, she's going to get you into movies, right? That's kind of how it starts, right? She has like this, she sold this opportunity, this false hope right? It's almost like if this was in America, it would be like, let's go to California. We're going to go to Hollywood, right? My aunt is in the movies, and she can get you into the movies. You'll be a big actress. Let's hop on a train from like Chicago, from Ohio, from the Midwest. Let's go take this train to Hollywood, and you can start your career. Except for in this movie, when she gets there, she gets locked in a room and she finds out that she's been sold to this brothel for like 100 or 1,000 rupees or something like that. I don't know exactly the currency, but seemingly probably not enough money for selling a human being, right? Not a good situation to start. And she was the same way as this girl, how refusing to kind of shut down, refusing to do everything. And it's like in this moment where she has been sold into slavery, basically sexual slavery, that she vows to one day run the entire city, right? She like wants to run Kathiawadi, which is the city where this brothel is, which is like a city that has brothels in it, right? That's what the city is known for. She's like, I'm going to run this city. And it's like through her trauma, she goes from being Ganga, and now she refers to herself as Gangu, right? And she speaks about herself in like the third person, like Gangu is going to do this. Like very much because of the trauma, separating herself, stepping outside of herself, and almost controlling herself like she's out of her body. But she pledges she's going to own the city. And she starts by like, getting to basically leading by example, leading these other prostitutes that are part of this brothel, right? And showing the madam that these prostitutes are listening to her and not the madam. And in that, the madam has to treat her well because she has so much control over these other prostitutes. There's also things that happen where she ends up getting beaten and to seek justice for this guy that like beat her and cut her, broke her limbs. She goes to like a crime boss in the city that's part of the city that runs other aspects of the city, and she makes a deal with him. And he's kind of like this figure in the background. He's not really a big part of this movie, right? But he's this guy that's like clearly, as her rise, he's like he sees her potential in some ways, and they have a lot of respect for each other, at least in this movie, according to this movie. And so she ends up, because of this new union with this mob boss guy, she ends up getting like revenge. This guy ends up getting the comeuppance of what he did to her. And she, because she's able to get the respect of the other prostitutes, she ends up getting to a place where she outlives the madam. And when that happens, when the madam dies, they love her so much, they wish for her to be their madam. They like it's like such a sweet scene where they're all like begging her and hugging her when she decides that she's going to be the madam. It's very beautiful. There's also a scene where, like, in order to show that she has control over the prostitutes instead of the madam that is there, she just decides like they're all going to take a day off and we're going to go to the movies, and you're going to be able to work today, right? You're going to be able to, or take the day off. You're not going to be you don't have to watch over us today as we do it. And it's like kind of this great thing where she takes all the women to go see a movie, which the movie aspect of it plays later. But so she ends up becoming the madam of this brothel. Man, I don't want to spoil the whole thing. There's just a lot of great moments, right? Her rise to power, when she's going up against the other president, they call them, of Kamathipura, there's a woman named Razia, but I think it's more, it may have been a trans woman or a guy cross-dressing, because I believe that role is played by a man. And not that it matters, but if it was a trans woman, then, I mean, that's pretty... Like, if this story was told in America, they probably would have changed that to just a woman. Like, to have the kind of even acknowledgement of trans women at all seems progressive. Which this movie in general is very progressive. I mean, it's a movie about a prostitute gaining power and using her power for good. Using her power to change the perspective of women's rights. Using her power to try and make prostitution legal. Let's take a little break from the Ray Taylor Show to promote my live art streams. That's right, I am an artist as well as a podcaster, and I paint live every Thursday at 4:20 Pacific time. Head on over, the best place ever for streaming, youtube.com/inspired disorder. That's right, every Thursday at 4:20, you can watch me paint the many faces. Every week, I paint 7 new faces of abstract portraits, ink on paper, and you can watch that happen. You can hang out with me while I listen to a classic episode from one of my favorite podcasts. Head on over to youtube.com/inspired disorder and check it out. Say hi, let's hang out, let's have some fun, and let's paint some faces. Now let's get back to the show. There's a battle that happens, not only her battle with Razia over who becomes president and their whole political back and forth, but you see there's a battle between her and the school. And the school, very much like how the situations we're dealing with in America, where religious fundamentalists are trying to get their way, and a lot of politics is tied up in that, and a lot of business is tied up in that, and it's a very disgusting kind of a thing. And her battle with the school is like claiming they've been there for 40 years, but then Gangubai is like, yeah, but we've been there for 100 years. Prostitution's like the oldest job in the world. I mean, women were selling their bodies for sex from the beginning of time. I mean, very early in human history, you know? And so it's an interesting back and forth. But to go back, I'm like all over the place. The initial story where she's telling this girl, she's like, I think it ends with her becoming the madam and showing that, like, listen, like, you can rise above this situation. Yeah, you are enslaved. Yeah, you are going to be a prostitute, but you can change your situation. You can change your life and rise above it. You can elevate above where you are if you choose to. And she offers this girl 2 candies. She's like, this candy you can have, and you will stay here, and you will work here, and it'll be fine. Or you can eat this candy, and you can kill yourself. And the girl is like, she chooses the death candy. And because of that, Gangu takes this girl out. And she's like, listen, she's never going to work for you. She would rather die. So we need to find another reality for her. And it's like this moment where you see, not only do you see Gangu of what she came from and what of a badass she is, because that's one thing with the performance that I love in this movie from Alia Bhatt is her performance. She's like very comfortable, very cool, very like, you know, jovial with people, like she doesn't give a fuck, you know, but also dead serious. Like, she just has like this energy that you just don't see. It actually kind of reminded me of Elaine from Seinfeld. She kind of has Elaine vibes in some ways, you know, just kind of like a good sense of humor about things, kind of one of the boys in a lot of ways, but like also, can be serious when she needs to. She can, like, clearly can stand up for herself, which I appreciate that. Like, she's definitely a strong woman, a strong, independent woman, despite coming from sex slavery, being sold into prostitution. So it not only shows that she was able to rise above her situation in this story that she tells this kid, but it also shows that she has a heart and that she's trying to do good by taking this kid out. And part of that is for political reasons, because she wants to be the president of Kamathipura and beat Razia to become the president. So she's also trying to do good for those reasons as well. But she has like all these goals throughout her life. She's like, okay, I'm gonna become the madam, and she does. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna become the president, and then she does. And then she's like, I want to have the first wedding to ever take place in Kamathipura. And then, because of a little love story that she has, she's able to manipulate a situation in where she arranges a marriage to happen between this guy that she had, like this guy that she had her first kind of moment of love with somebody since the person that sold her into this life. She sacrifices that. She sacrifices her opportunity of having love in her life in order to further her progression and to follow her goals, and setting up this wedding in order to fulfill a goal. Like, I want to have the first wedding to take place in this area that is just known for brothels. Like, many times it's stated in this movie that she has the lives of 4,000 women on her shoulders, right? Because that's who she represents, as the 4,000 prostitutes that live in this part of town, of all of the different brothels that apparently are in this town, and how she balances paying off the police and negotiating with politicians and all of these things. It's very much like a movie you would see Martin Scorsese direct in some ways. It's kind of like a Goodfellas type of a movie, except for it is a woman rising through power, starting at being sold into sex slavery, being sold into prostitution, and then rising from that to gain power and influence and to try and do some good, as opposed to like Goodfellas, where they never really tried to do any good. But it's like, imagine if those characters came up through organized crime and then tried to also do some good to forward culture and to forward humanity. And that's what she does in this movie, trying to push women's rights forward, to be a spokesperson for prostitutes, for sex workers, to be somebody who there's this great scene where she's going to speak to the prime minister, right? Because there's this issue with the school, where the school is partnering with a developer. They want to tear down all the brothels so they can build skyscrapers, right? Gentrification. And the only way she could potentially do this is to go and talk to the prime minister, and that is the only person that would be able to stop this from happening. And she's on this train, and she mentions while she's there with her, like, this kid boy that like helps out around the brothel. She's on this trip on this train to the prime minister. She tells him, like, this is the second trip I've ever been on. My first trip was from my home to be sold into the brothel. So her second train trip was from that city that she is now in charge of. She is now the president, to go to the prime minister and talk to the prime minister. Like, that is a massive jump, to go from a train ride where you think you're going to be part of the movie industry and instead are sold into prostitution. And then the next train trip you take is to go to the prime minister to argue him to legalize prostitution, to convince him to not make all of the 4,000 women that live in the city to be homeless. Like, that is a massive change. And it's like so inspiring, right? All of these stories, even though it's like a very unique situation, it's such like a story of like hope and like these stories of people who are able to be successful in accomplishing these insanely large goals, right? I mean, from her reality being in chains, losing her life, losing her freedom, having to work to give your body doesn't even belong to you anymore, right? You barely exist on your own terms. To go from that to being so far past and to have so much power and so much influence, it is amazing. There's also along her journey, like she's in her battle with the school, she meets a reporter who the reporter kind of reminds me of the kid that's in Ratatouille, the animated movie, right? His face kind of looks like it. But like this reporter wants to, like, he likes her vibe, and he's like, I want to help promote you. I want to help push your message. Takes her picture. You know, she's trying to get all these girls that have been, that are the children of prostitutes. She's trying to get them all enrolled in the school, right? In this battle of the school, really trying to highlight how two-sided this Catholic school is. At how they're, you know, pretend to be all about the kids, but only certain kids and only certain people are worth saving, and how certain people are demonized. And this reporter's trying to help elevate her message. And it gets to a point where he like signs her up to speak at like this women's event to try and get more rights for women, women's rights speech, to represent prostitutes. And he like writes her a speech, and she shows up, and she's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to do this live. And she does this speech in her own way. And it's like, you can almost see it coming, right? Anytime you have these like trailblazers, these people that live on their own terms, anytime they're even people attempt to put them into any kind of a mold, there's always that moment where they're like, no, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to be honest to myself. I'm not going to read your words. I'm going to speak true to my heart. And it's great. It's, even though it's like a scene that you would expect to see, it's still a great scene. And it's like inspiring, because like she's calling them all out. She's like, we work just like you work, except for we give so much more of ourselves than anybody gives to their job. Like we give our souls away on a daily basis to provide a service to so many different types of people. We don't discriminate against anybody, but all of you discriminate against all of us. It's like all of the things that she's able to do because of that, the way prostitution and sex work has always been so demonized throughout history in every culture. It's just she's able to turn it on its head and use that as a weapon, use that as a way to open their eyes to things. And it's just like this beautiful story. Let's take a little break from the show to promote The Many Faces. That's right, I am also an artist. I do ink paintings on paper of abstract faces. A new face, a new painting gets released every single day over at inspireddisorder.com. So head on over to my website to purchase original artwork directly from the artist. Also, there are prints available for select images. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com, buy original art, buy prints if that's your jam, if you want 8x10 prints on high quality paper. Also, if you're looking to wear some art, there are shirts available with original artwork by myself. Select faces from The Many Faces are also available in t-shirt form. You go to inspireddisorder.com, you buy original artwork, you buy prints, you buy shirts. You're supporting an artist directly. And if you're the type of person that likes to invest in NFTs, there are also NFTs available for select faces. Go to inspireddisorder.com now. And now let's get back to the show. It's like beautiful what she's able to accomplish, but also tragic. Because there's a scene like 12 years after this whole thing happened, she calls her mom finally. After 12 years. She's accomplished so much. And she's like, Mom, this is what I've accomplished. And it's like, they don't even want to talk to her anymore. Because that's what it's like. You got sold, you're a prostitute. Even though the situation was like, if you're going to demonize anybody, demonize the dude that sold her into prostitution. But it's like, they don't even, it's like, and that's like a religious thing, man. So many fundamental religious people in all religions, they are so shut off. Like, they are so easily to just excommunicate people because they are considered to be evil in some way. They aren't going along with the religious path that they should be doing, even if it's out of their control. It's crazy. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that, like, there's this moment where she's trying to connect after 12 years. She's, like, actually proud of what she's been able to do, to rise above everything that she's had to deal with, to rise above this life that she's had zero control over and now is in control of so much. And she wants to have that praise. She wants to have that love that she's been missing for 12 years. And she doesn't get it. Not only does she not get it, but she finds out her dad's not alive. And it's just, you know, it's nothing about her life has been like, it's always been kind of brutal. But because she's kind of stepped out of herself and she's created this alter ego from day one, being Ganga at first, that innocent person who had freedom and had love. She thought she had love. To then becoming Gangu, who was a prostitute, who had high hopes and major goals and major aspirations to do great things. And then when she achieved those things, she became Gangubai and became like just constantly these different stages of evolution, these different metamorphoses, these changes in her life where she keeps like finding a new gear. She graduates to a new level of who she is and changes who she is. And that's something the reporter noticed and was wary of her because she had this desire to run into the dude that sold her into slavery. And the reporter's like, listen, that is the last thing I want to happen. Because if you do, then that may take your fire away. Like, all of this that you've been able to accomplish is because of this fire that started. This desire to prove life wrong, to overcome all of these things was started when he sold you into sex work, when he sex trafficked you. And he fears that if you're able to put that behind you, that this will all go away. And he knows the power that she has to do so much. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful at the end where, like, there's this parade and it's just these white petals, you know, flown. They're celebrating her because of what she's done. Even Razia is celebrating her. How she saved this town. And how she's honored in this city for 50 years. As long as she was alive, the 4,000 women, they never went homeless. Like, how she actually was successful in taking care. Like, she was able to do amazing things for people that society does not care for, despite the fact that they provide a service to so many people in society. like really beautiful. And even like the moments, like she's such a badass, you know? Like when she was during the election up against Razia, and Razia's trying to intimidate her and stuff. And she has this great plan to like, Razia's got this speech that she's going to give. So Gangu, she decides, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a movie and I'm going to show a movie. Like they literally show the movie on a screen in one of the streets where both sides of the screen, people are just sitting on the roads, just like the whole town just sitting in the roads watching this movie in the street. At the same time, Razia is supposed to be giving the speech. She goes over to rub it in her face. It's beautiful. It's like gangster. So gangster. She partners with the mob boss. It's like, we're going to sell your alcohol. Listen, we're going to make great business together. We'll sell your alcohol in our business. You'll get to sell a ton of alcohol because people that want to have sex want to drink too. Like, she was such a badass. A pretty, like, you know, and the performance is amazing. Great. Like, if this should be, she should be nominated for, it's not an American movie, but she should be nominated for Best Actress. It's such, like, her performance is amazing. And, like, even there's a scene where she's, like, it's kind of after she's gotten a lot of success, and there's, like, this dance scene. And, you know, people are dancing in the streets, and she's, like, doing this dance that's gorgeous. But you see, like, it's, like, the one time in the movie where she's, like, really feels like she's just finally letting go. Letting go of, like, the pressure, letting go of the pain, letting go of the suffering. And you can see that in her dance. You can see that in her face of her just letting go while she's doing this dance. And even the dance itself is, like, an expression of her just kind of like, fuck, fine. Like, I can just, like, breathe for once. It's beautiful. Like, so many aspects. And then, like, this whole story is crazy, right? This great story, great performance. And then, like, every shot of this movie is gorgeous. The color palettes are gorgeous. It is just so beautiful. Every shot of this movie looks so good. Like, blown away. It was such a treat to watch. So I'd highly recommend this movie. And I know I spoiled stuff, and I tried not to go through, you know, beat by beat. Trying to just do an overview of the things that I liked about this movie. And just, like, how, like, just amazing it is. Like, it just amazing people can be in situations that are so, where it's just, it seems like so easy to just, like, give up. People give up for far less all the time. And she was able to turn a situation of complete desperation and complete hopelessness. And she was able to turn that situation and use it as a fire, as a motivation to accomplish so many goals, so many things that most people will never do in their entire life. And maybe if not for that situation happening, if not for her being put in that deficit of life to give her that flame, maybe she never would have achieved all the things she would have achieved, which is not necessarily a promotion of that happening. Like, she should never have been, none of those women should have ever been sold into that life. But the life that they make and the life that they're able to create despite being sold, despite that life being forced upon them, they're able to find beauty, they're able to find strength, and they were able to find, like, a way to contribute and move humanity forward in a way that so many other lifestyles are so determined to just keep people static and the same and living their own version of status quo. So there's a lot of aspects of this movie I absolutely loved. It's such a great movie. I highly recommend checking it out. It's on Netflix. An amazing movie. Gangubai Kathiawadi is the name of the movie. Highly recommend it. It's visually amazing. The performance is the best performance I've seen of a female actress all year. One of the best, period. One of the most visually stunning films of the year, if not ever. A great story. Will most likely be one of my favorite movies of the year in general that came out in 2022. Highly recommend checking it out. Again, it's Gangubai, Gangubai Kathiawadi. Gangubai Kathiawadi. Watch it.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.